Are you a good secret keeper? Some of us are, and some of us just can't possibly hold it all in, can we? I happen to be a very good secret keeper. If you tell me something in confidence, it will not leak out, even though I may not sleep holding on to that secret. For example, Bob told me a few weeks before it was announced that he was going to apply for our rector position, but it had to stay between he and I. So when folks kept asking me what was going on, what was happening, the best I could say was things were progressing and I thought we might have something to report soon. Perfectly vague. How do we feel about secrets? Secrets were good in that case. There are substantial reasons why the secret had to be kept. Paperwork, announcements to appropriate committees involved, et cetera, et cetera. But when the secret does come out, it's a wonderful news that is to be celebrated, and there's no harm done to anyone in the process of keeping that secret. Then again, secrets can be deadly, horrific, harmful in so many ways. Take, for example, the creation of the atomic bomb. That was a high-powered government secret of epic proportions. Wives, families, and even some of the government workers were not in on this mission that was taking place. Robert Oppenheimer, who discovered the technology allowing fission of nuclear particles, was against the creation of the nuclear bomb and its secret, but was in on it 100%. He had hoped this technology would be for the good of man, not its destruction. As time evolved, nuclear fission has been directed to some wonderfully positive advancements, but sadly, without the involvement of Dr. Oppenheimer, who was a paramount secret keeper. In today's reading, Jesus is testing his disciples. He goes to a part of the country that is primarily inhabited by Gentiles and puts the question to the disciples, who do the people say that I am? He takes this time to more fully engage the disciples in describing who he is. In my mind, it would seem that all this time he has been traveling with the disciples and preaching the word of God, that the disciples would be fully aware by now of exactly who he was and would be trying to convince others of their belief. They answer Jesus. Some say you are John the Baptist, resurrected, of course, because John the Baptist had been murdered, but was such an influential persona that people felt that perhaps he had been resurrected. Some say you are the prophet Elijah, the worker of miracles, who is also expected to be resurrected. Others say you are the prophet Jeremiah, who had opposed religious leaders in Jerusalem, which Jesus was also doing. Jesus prods further to know who the disciples as a collective group think that he is. The spokesperson, Peter, answers for the first time, you are the Christ, meaning the anointed one. Jesus is pleased with this answer. He acknowledges that this has been revealed to Peter not by earthly flesh and blood, but by God in heaven. This is divine. This is the result Jesus had hoped for in his prophesying over the many years with the disciples. I can imagine that Jesus has the feeling that we have with our own children when we preach for years in our parental way about living as loving human beings. One day your child says something so profound to you that you know that you have gotten through. We've heard God's guidance in our teachings, and wow, what a moment of grace when your child confirms your teachings. How Jesus must have felt this grace and at peace as he is readying for his journey to Jerusalem. Jesus then tells the disciples that his church will be built and nothing will stand in the way of its continuance. He will give them the keys to the kingdom. Imagine the Disney pass to the kingdom. The disciples have the remarkable role of sharing this knowledge, Jesus' blessing. It is under their purview to gather and grow followers of Jesus and his word. And then Jesus says, whatever you bind on earth will have been bound in heaven, and whatever you release on earth will have been released in heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you have released on earth will have been released in heaven. Then, after this incredulous dialogue and revelation, he tells the disciples to keep this a secret. A secret, tell no one. This seems completely contrary to the role Jesus has taken on through this journey. The disciples must be scratching their heads, trying to discern how this fits in with their beliefs. Jesus has confirmed that he is the Son of God, and shouldn't everyone be told? Why not tell the world? Why keep this information to oneself? Why the secret? When I was an 8-year-old little girl, I wanted nothing more than to have a birthday party with my friends. My older brother had had birthday parties. My friends had had birthday parties. I just didn't understand, but I had never had one. I likely begged my parents, and they said no, which just devastated me. I was so sad. Likely a bit sullen as well. I think I could be that way when I was 8 years old. The big day came, and it was like any other. There would be cake and presents later in the day with my family, but it was kind of a boring, dull day. And at some point in the day, in the afternoon, I went upstairs to my bedroom, and I'm sure this was orchestrated by my parents. And they sent me upstairs, and lo and behold, what pops out in my bedroom but all my friends? It was such a joyous moment. You can imagine how delighted I was. And it remains to be one of the best birthday parties I ever had. There was a tight secret that my parents kept, and the reveal was simply joyous. As the disciples hold on to this Jesus' secret and they await the purpose of this secret keeping, will they feel a similar joy? As disciples of Jesus, do we keep this secret too, or do we enjoy the great reveal? The word of the Lord.